He's Peter Schrager, popular co-host of NFL Network's Good Morning Football. Spent the past week in Indianapolis and joining us on the program after a week watching the Combine. Is it small hands or short arms? What's the most important thing to take away from the Combine here, Pete?
We don't even know if it's accurate. This year, the big discrepancy was the Senior Bowl and the All-Star games had guys with one hand size. They showed up at the Combine and their hands grew a foot. So I heard from a lot of scouts being like, I didn't plan on going to all these pro days, but I guess I have to because there's been major discrepancies in the measurements from just the college All-Star games to the Combine. The truth is, it's all about the interviews and it's all about the medicals. These guys got put through the ringers. And I interviewed Sean Payton yesterday on NFL Network at the Combine, and he was like, we didn't even think Bo Nix threw well. We weren't even into Bo Nix at this point last year. So we're just getting started, really. It's going to be a lot of investigations on these players. Moving on, that sounds negative. A lot of deep diving on these players over the next few weeks. But this was kind of the first introduction to a lot of these players, to a lot of the teams.
But we would, it felt like we were trying to make, or members in the media or shows were trying to make a big deal that Shedeur Sanders wasn't throwing at the Combine. And I reminded my audience, the quarterbacks taken in the first round last year didn't throw at the like it's not necessarily a big deal. You throw at your pro day. Cam Ward, the same thing. What about those who did throw at the Combine? Did anybody stand out for good or bad reasons?
Yeah, Jackson Dart threw well. He's probably going to be the third quarterback taken. Last year I was at the Combine and Caleb Williams didn't throw. And he didn't do any of the workouts. But he was like the hype man for the group, and he was around and he was present. And everyone that I spoke with was like, you see Caleb at the Combine? He didn't throw, but gosh, I love that about him. He's up and down. I was there on Saturday on the field, and Cam Ward is not throwing or running, but Cam Ward is talking to all the different quarterbacks, hyping them up. And then when Xavier Restrepo, his wide receiver, was about to do the wide receivers drills, Cam Ward starts throwing him passes. So it's almost like he is warming up. He's not doing it. And Shedeur Sanders was electric also on the sidelines. The truth of the matter is Quinn Ewers threw well. I said Jackson Dart threw well. Tyler, I can't get his name right. It's out of Louisville and Texas Tech. It's Kyler. There's like, it's pronounced wrong. Scug. I don't know how it's pronounced fully. And maybe that's why I'm kind of behind the eight ball on it. But he was a guy who bounced from Texas Tech to Louisville. He threw really well and ran the 40. And that was really well appreciated that he actually ran the 40. I was like, I'm going to go for it. But no one at the quarterback position solidified their spot or jumped a huge amount based on their Combine workout.
I like Jackson Dart a lot. I watched probably 2 full games at Ole Miss. You got, a coach who knows how to develop quarterbacks. I just don't know. He might be the third quarterback, as you said. I don't know what that third means. It feels like the difference between the second quarterback and the third quarterback could be beginning of the first round and at the beginning of the second round.
Absolutely. And I think that's the gap. I think Cam Ward is solidified right now as the number 1 quarterback in this draft. And I have to make sure that everyone hears this and that Dion hears this. I'm not saying he's the best quarterback in this draft. He will be the first quarterback selected in this draft. And that's how it's looking going into pro days and free agency and the rest. Shedeur is likely 2. Jackson Dart is likely 3. And then we don't know where that 3 is. Is that as early as 7 to the Jets? Or is that 34 to the Giants? We don't know. As we do know in the history of the draft, quarterbacks and their values go up and up and up until the fact that we have 6 taken in the first 12, like we did last year. When heading into the pro days and the free agency stuff, Bo Nix was looked at as an early second round pick, and Michael Penix wasn't considered a top 10 selection. So their values get higher as the free agency and roster development forms, and you see that teams have massive holes at quarterback. It's the most important position in sports. If someone doesn't check that box, Jackson Dart's stock can go up skyrocketing because a team gets desperate and says, well, we need a quarterback, and he's the guy.
And we do focus in on the quarterbacks, and rightfully so, but sometimes you get these GMs who show up at the Combine, and they're talking about other things than what we're watching on the screen. This is where deals get done. I don't know if Debo getting traded was something that, got done at the Combine. I know it was announced at the Combine. It feels like Aaron Rodgers to the Giants is a possibility here. So give us sort of fact or fiction here of some of these other ancillary things that are dangling.
I can't stress this enough. The combine drills go on from Thursday to Sunday, and it's on NFL Network, and it's Rich Eisen and Daniel Jeremiah, and that is the sizzle, that is the steak. But what's really going on, and really the importance of the combine, is that you've got representatives from all 32 teams. Even if the head coach didn't show up this year, there are a bunch of 49ers people there, and there's conversations happening all week because everyone's in the same place at the same time. This is where deals are done, and guess what? Every NFL agent is there as well. So I talked to a GM and I said, well, what do you think of this workout? I couldn't really watch the workouts. We'll watch the tape. I had meetings with agents from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. And that's every agent, from the biggest agent, you could talk to Joel Siegel and Drew Rosenhaus, or from the smallest agent who has one player who might be an undrafted guy. They take the meetings there. So they're dance card is full, and that's where a lot of these deals are at least discussed and get the value. And you can't make a deal, but what you could say is, hey, here's what we're hearing, this is what our player is likely going to be getting. If you're interested, let us know when the legal tampering deal starts happening. Now you add in the fact that there's media members, and it's when we get to get our rumors and our stuff. But like, I'll say it openly because I was publicly with them, but like, I had breakfast with Brandon Beane, the GM of the Bills, and Joe Shane, the GM of the Giants. And we didn't meet in a suite in a Marriott somewhere and quietly with the phones plugged out. We met at a breakfast spot called Patachu, and there was 100 other people in the media there, and there was 100 different GMs there, and everyone sees us all talking. And Eric DaCosta's having breakfast over there, and Howie Roseman's having breakfast over there. And this is how it is. It's everyone's talking. We're all getting our information, but we're also trading information and just seeing people we don't see during the year.
What do you think happens leading up to the draft? Any moves that are made?
I think free agency this year is really interesting because you've got a bunch of these quarterbacks and a little bit of a carousel, but I don't know necessarily the market is there for like Sam Darnold. If you had told me week 17 that Sam Darnold was going to hit free agency, I'd say there would be a line out the door. I don't know Sam Darnold's market right now. In fact, it went from being, no doubt Minnesota has to bring him back. Those 8 days where they had the season finale on Sunday night against the Lions and then lost on the Monday night 8 days later to the Rams. Like, I don't know. That could have cost Sam Darnold millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I don't have a team for him right now where it's going to be, let's spill over ourselves and give Sam Darnold that $100 million contract. Once Stafford was taken care of, I think Darnold's the next piece. I think Rodgers is an interesting piece. I think Justin Fields is going to have a market. Young quarterback, did well in Pittsburgh. I think Fields might have multiple teams vying for him to be their number one. And then you have this next tier of like, what do we do with Russell Wilson? Where's Kirk Cousins going? And then it's guys like Jared Stidham and Taylor Heineke. Like, they can play in this league. That's what's next coming out of the combine, because we have a lot of teams that are going to be looking at two quarterbacks, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, up there in the top. But like, there's only so many teams that can get those guys, and you've got these other veterans that might be able to fill that hole right now and might give those coaches and GMs a better chance to win than taking a rookie in the top 5.
Talking to Peter Schrager, co-host, NFL Network's Good Morning Football, NFL on Fox Insider as well. If Matthew Stafford doesn't go back to the Rams would do what?
I think the Rodgers talk was real. I think Rodgers was real. Yeah, there's some connections there. A, you've got him living in Malibu. B, he and McVay have met each other before at events, and they have a similar kinship for each other as far as the work that they've done. I think Rodgers was a very legitimate option. The other one was Jimmy Garoppolo, who, whether or not you want to believe it or not, Sean McVay, you'll have him on the show, you can ask him, has a great fondness for Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo showed a lot this year, and in a meaningless Week 18 game against the Seahawks, Garoppolo was dialed in with backups and gave Seattle everything they can handle, and that went a long way. So they held the leverage in that situation. They would love to have Stafford back, but at the end of the day, they felt comfortable that if they had to move on and the numbers didn't make sense and Stafford really wanted out to go explore what he was worth on the open market, they were going to be okay. And in the end of the day, cooler heads prevailed. And I wouldn't be so bold to speak on McVay's behalf, especially when he's a guest on your show coming up later today.
If I gave the Bears a do-over, would they still have taken Caleb Williams?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. They were so convicted last year. I mean, they didn't meet with any other quarterbacks. Like, they were in on this thing. And I think they think that they failed Caleb in year one with a lot of different ways. And they have done everything in their power to surround him with the right coaching staff and organizational moves that he should have great success in year 2.
What's Brock Purdy going to get?
good money. Good money. It is
Great money?
I think good money. I don't know if he's going to break the market. His agent Kyle Strongen was around during Indy making the rounds, and this is not like it's a machine where it's CAA or it's WME or it's Rosenhaus. This is an agent that like Brock Purdy is his guy, and he had him when he was coming out of Iowa State, and Brock Purdy's been loyal to him. I think they are rational thinkers though in this thing. They're going to get Purdy top starting quarterback money, but I don't know if Purdy's going to blow out the market in a way where we're talking like, oh, that's the new standard. So it's got to be this sweet spot. But San Francisco went all in last year, didn't win, and Deebo Samuel's gone. There's going to be a lot of different moves for San Francisco, cutting salaries. They know they've got to pay Brock Purdy, and that's a priority for them.
Yeah, we talk about window of opportunity all the time. That the Niners' window of opportunity, it feels like the window of opportunity is closed. When you look at the Eagles, you look at the Lions, the Niners were that team. Now, all of a sudden, Trent Williams, what's he got, another year? Can McCaffrey even play anymore? Ayuk's probably going to be gone. Your best receiver might be a guy who got shot last year. So, the window of I always say win now. Like, whatever it takes, win now. If I'm Detroit, all in on Myles Garrett. If I'm Washington, all in on Myles. Like, win now. None of this, hey, we're set up for the future. We see what happens with that. Win now.
Well, win now covers up a lot of potential. Hey, wait a second. What was that? Like, people forget the Niners in Lynch and Shanahan's first draft took Solomon Thomas, number 3 overall, over Mahomes and whoever else, and then they took Reuben Foster in the 20. Like, we don't talk about, wow, they really missed on that draft with the 3rd overall pick. They took Solomon Thomas. They traded 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. Like, we don't talk about that. We talk about the wins and the success and the ability to find Brock Purdy and to find George Kittle and to get all these moves to get Christian McCaffrey there. I have no doubt they don't regret going all in and paying Ayuk his money last year and paying Deebo, because they were 3 points away from a Super Bowl. And if they don't receive the kickoff, who knows what happens in that Super Bowl, where that's an organization. And Jed York, since he took over the organization, has knocked on the door so many times for that Lombardi that they were going all in last year. It just fell apart in historic fashion, and they didn't even make the playoffs. They're going to feel it this year. They will. But Brock Purdy, it's not on him. I think he actually played really well, and they respect the fact that he stood in the pocket, he took the hits, and he had a good season last year despite a lot of shortcomings for that team.
The tush push came back to life as far as let's outlaw it. It felt like that was the topic of conversation, or one of the big topics there. It's cooled off a little bit, it feels like, but I don't know if it's cooled off enough that we go, let's table this until next year. But I don't know, like, what's your general consensus of where are we headed with any changes to this play?
I think behind closed doors, people don't like it. And away from the microphone, people think it's not a pretty play. It's, you saw the health and safety data came out that there's been 0 injuries from the tush push. So a lot of that is a little window dressing. They're like, oh, it's not a safe play. I just think people don't, it's like kind of gross to watch it. It's not fun. It's like, all right, here we go. It's a formality, almost like the extra point. That said, there's this masculinity and there's this machismo amongst the NFL where if you're out there, and Raheem Morris was out there, he's like, I don't like it. And people were like, oh, well, if you don't like it, then you got to stop it. Like, there's this like testosterone filled thing where, the Eagles do it and you're not going to take it away. I can't imagine they remove it. The injury data is not there. It is a play of skill in a lot of ways. And the fact that Jason Kelce retired, Cam Jurgens filled in, and they were able to execute it the way they did, it does feel like you're penalizing the Eagles if you're getting rid of it. But from an aesthetic standpoint, call me an artist, if you will, or a poet, or someone who's into, the beauty of the game. I don't like watching it. I don't think a lot of people like watching it, but it is a certain play, and it hasn't been stopped, and one team excels at it. You can't get rid of it based on that. You got to get rid of it based on, hey, there's players getting hurt at a higher rate, and that's just not the case right now.
I still think that they would be extremely successful with just a quarterback sneak. You took away the lineman behind Jalen Hurts, given his ability to do, he's unique. This is really, he does something, when you're going to squat 500 or 600 pound, whatever, like he has an advantage. that I think that they would still be very successful. You know, J.J. Watt joined us last week, and he said, look, the play's unstoppable. So here, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year said, you can't stop it.
We had fun. We had fun with Frankie Louvu from the Commanders jumping over 3 times and Hockley being like, we're going to do it. That's not what John Facenda wanted to be, doing NFL Films highlights over. I promise you that.
Good to talk to you. I know you had a busy week. Thanks for making some time.
You're the best. They pushed our show from Good Morning Football back a little bit, and I haven't been able to come on all season. It's a thrill for me to be able to do it today.
Okay. We're going to be at Lambeau for the draft.
Yeah.
We would love to be able to see you up there. I mean, I know you'll be important. We're just a little show.
When I wear a suit and tie, I'm a different guy. Here, casual, I love being with you. It's great.
So if you have a suit and tie on, do not approach you.
Don't even bother.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
That's it.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. That's Peter Schrager. Yeah.